Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. Happy Friday. Happy Freaky Friday to all you freaks out there. I hope your day and your week have been going very well so far. Got a new day, which of course means a new MLB Player Prop video to share with you guys. But first, as always, people, please make sure to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment down below. It helps the channel grow, and it really does mean a ton to us. With a new day comes some new opportunities to go ahead and make some money, and there is no better day to go ahead and make some money than Freaky Friday. And today's Freaky Friday parlay, normally we do 5 legs. I'm feeling a little extra freaky today. We're going to rock with a 6-leg parlay in this Freaky Friday. And to up the stakes, since we have an extra leg, I feel it's only fair to up the giveaway price. So every Friday, we usually do a 5-leg parlay if you are new here. And we do a giveaway where if the parlay hits, you comment Freaky down below. And if the parlay hits, I pick one lucky commenter to win a free $25 Amazon gift card. For this week, because we're doing 6 legs, I'm going to offer up a $50 Amazon gift card. So all you have to do is comment Freaky down below. And if the parlay hits, one lucky commenter won a free $50, sorry, force a habit, $50 Amazon gift card. It's that easy, it's that simple, and we do hit these parlays. Look at our NBA record. I mean, a lot of these parlays get hit. And we are building a little bit of positive momentum. Obviously, the last couple of weeks have not been the best, but our last time out on Wednesday, we didn't do a video yesterday. Our focus yesterday was on Game 6 of the NBA Finals. Our last video on Wednesday, we did go 3-1, so we are starting to trend a little bit in the right direction. We'll see if we can build on it. This is the real test. This is the big heat check. If we can cash this parlay, we're looking good. So with all that being said, we have a lot of legs to get to. Let's go ahead and dive right into today's Freaky Friday 6-leg parlay. Jumping on over to the outlier screen, our first leg of our 6-leg parlay, we are using DraftKings for this parlay, and we are using alternate lines here. That's very important. I know some people hate on it, but alternate lines are the way to go, especially if you're doing parlays of 3 or more legs. But for our first leg, we are targeting the Rangers-Pirates game, 6:40 p.m. first pitch. We're going Mike Burrows of the Pittsburgh Pirates over 3.5 strikeouts. Now, this is the most juiced line of the parlay, I believe. It's minus 300 over on DraftKings. It is available on a couple different sports books. If you guys do want to go ahead and tail along and you don't have DraftKings, some of the legs will be available on a couple of different sports books. We'll kind of go over that at the end of the video. But Mike Burrows over 3.5 strikeouts. And not a lot to go off of. He's only pitched 5 games this year, and obviously no games off of last year to go off of either. So a limited sample size here. But 3 out of 5 starts this year, he's cashed the over. He's averaging 5 strikeouts per game. And honestly, the first 2 ones, he had a couple of tough matchups there with Milwaukee and Arizona to start the year. But the last 3 starts, he's cashed this over, and he's getting better and better with his last start versus the Cubs, having 8 strikeouts. He can literally do half the number of strikeouts he had his last time out, and we go ahead and cash the over. So like I said, no head-to-head data, no last 10, no last 20. We have a limited sample size here, but using what we have at our disposal, it's looking pretty good here. 3 straight starts, and he's increasing his numbers every game, which is really good. And he's got a decent matchup. Now, looking at Outlier, we're going to be using Outlier as well as the Guy Boston Sports MLB Dashboard. Those are the 2 sites that I use to go ahead and find my data for these player props. Now, at first glance from the Outlier data, it doesn't look like it's the best matchup. The Rangers overall this year, 14th versus right-handed pitchers in terms of strikeout percentage, 21.3%. Over the last 30 games, still 14th in the league, 21.7%. So you might look at that and say, hey, that's not as great as you'd like. You know, it's middle of the road. It's not bad, but it's not great either. Although you do see the rest of the numbers here for Texas. Batting average, OBP, WOBA, they're all bottom 10 in Major League Baseball versus right-handed pitchers, this year. However, we jump over to the dashboard on Guy Boston Sports, you'll see some more recent numbers and some more specific numbers here. Look at the last 30 days batting numbers here for the Rangers. You see the batting average, obviously, not very good overall versus right-handed pitchers, 18th, a little bit better, but still not good. But look at versus right-handed pitchers away, 27, so pretty low. Let's go down to the strikeout percentage here. So overall, over the last 30 days, they actually are 19th in Major League Baseball in totality versus both right-handed pitchers and left-handed pitchers, 23.1% strikeout rate in total versus right-handed pitchers. Again, 15th, about where Outlier has it. Some of the numbers are not going to be exactly the same based on what we're using here. But the moral of the story being that both Outlier and the dashboard indicate they're middle of the road versus right-handed pitchers over the last 30 days. Now, this is the key one, though. Versus right-handed pitchers on the road, the second worst mark in Major League Baseball over the last 30 days, 32.1% strikeout rate. That's a really, really high number. So when you combine this with this, then you also see that Mike Burrows this year versus left-handed hitters, 22.7% strikeout rate, versus right-handed hitters, 26.8% strikeout rate. And going over here, you see the Rangers, they have 5 right-handed hitters in the lineup, 3 lefties. Overall, it looks to be a pretty solid matchup here for Mike Burrows against a Rangers offense that, let's be honest, it's not very good. For our second leg of our 6-leg parlay, we're moving on to the Orioles-Yankees game. 7:05 p.m. first pitch. We have another pitcher prop here. We have Max Fried of the Yankees under 5.5 hits allowed. We're grabbing this one for -170 on DraftKings, a little more reasonable in terms of the odds. Now, Max Fried had a really strong start to the year. If you look at the overall data first, you do see a 60% hit rate on the year, so still pretty solid. 9 out of 15 starts, he's cashed this under, averaging just 4.67 hits allowed per game this year. Now, he had a little bit, first 2 starts, not the best, but you do see here he had a nice long 8-game cover streak where it looked like Fried was the most dominant pitcher in baseball. Now, over the last 5 games, and we narrow it down a little bit, you do see a lot more cashes on the over. He's actually given up the over in 4 of the last 5 games, averaging 5.4 hits allowed per game over the last 5. Now, most of these, he's just barely touching the over by 1 hit, except for this game versus the Dodgers, where we had 8 hits allowed on May 30th. Still, if we take all the numbers into a vacuum here, it's still pretty solid. Now, the head-to-head numbers, we don't have a lot to go off of. He faced Baltimore once last year as a member of the Braves back on June 11th, so over a year ago, and he did cash the over, giving up 6 hits versus Baltimore. That being said, that Orioles team versus this Orioles team, very different. Now, if we scroll down below to look at some supporting data, and obviously Max Fried, he's still one of the best pitchers in Major League Baseball this year. 89th percentile on batting average allowed, 83rd percentile BABIP, 72nd percentile strikeout percentage, so on and so forth. 95th percentile ERA. Pretty good numbers for Max Fried. Baltimore batting versus left-handed pitchers, from an overall standpoint, not very good, right? Bottom 5 in a lot of categories, bottom 10 in a lot of categories. Batting average in particular, which is really important here, 27th overall. Now, over the last 30 games versus left-handed pitchers, according to Outlier, they have gotten significantly better. Still not great, still outside the top 10, but definitely better. And referring back to the Guy Boston Sports dashboard over here, you do see over the last 30 days, the numbers seem to add up. Left-handed pitchers, even on the road, 17th, so still not great, but not as bad as the overall numbers seem to indicate. Overall, it's a solid matchup, not a great matchup, but a solid one. The key thing here is that I think Max Fried is such a great pitcher. I think he can overcome this Orioles offense, especially playing at home in Yankee Stadium, which, by the way, he's been incredibly dominant when playing in Yankee Stadium. 6 consecutive starts at home, he's cashed this under. He's giving up just 3.86 hits per game in the Bronx this year. So matching all that numbers together, I really do think it's a pretty solid player prop. I think he's due to go ahead and cash an under here. Baltimore's a pretty good team, I think, for him to go off again. So it's our second leg of our 6-leg parlay. All right, guys, our third leg of our 6-leg parlay, we have Tigers Rays, 7:05 p.m. first pitch. We have Josh Lowe of the Tampa Bay Rays under 1.5 total bases. We're grabbing this one for -170 over on DraftKings, but again, available on varying sports books for varying odds. Pretty solid data here. He's cashed the under in 7 of his last 10 games, that of course being a 70% hit rate, averaging 1.1 total bases per game over the last 10 games. And the further you go ahead and search the data out, it's still pretty solid. Last 20 games, 65% hit rate, pretty good. Overall season numbers, we only played 32 games to be fair, but in 32 games played, a 63% hit rate on this under, averaging 1.44 total bases per game this season. From a head-to-head perspective, now take it with a grain of salt because all the data comes from last year's matchups, but in all 3 meetings with the Tigers last year, he cashed this under, averaging just 0.33 total bases per game across those 3 meetings with Detroit. And the insight provided by Outlier just kind of reiterates some of the data we already looked at. Josh Lowe has failed to exceed 1.5 bases in 4 of his last 5 games, averaging just 1.4 total bases per game over his last 5 games, that of course being an 80% hit rate. Looking down below at Josh Lowe, and make sure it's Josh Lowe, not the other Lowe that the Tampa Bay Rays have. They also have Brandon Lowe, so make sure it's Josh Lowe. There's the other one of the 2 Lows. But Josh Lowe versus Jack Flaherty, 2 plate appearances since 2018, so very small sample size, but he did nothing in those 2 plate appearances against Jack Flaherty. Now, Josh Lowe overall this year, not terrible numbers, but not great ones either. 241 batting average, 293 BABIP, so on and so forth. Versus right-handed pitchers like Jack Flaherty, though, the numbers do decrease pretty drastically. Batting average drops to 211, BABIP drops to 246, extra base hit percentage drops to 26.3. Really, really good. Now, Jack Flaherty, all of his numbers except for batting average increase, which obviously, I mean, batting average going down is a plus, goes down to 198, which is really, really good. ERA, slugging, and extra base hit percentage all go up a little bit. Not exactly what you want to see there. But if we go ahead and refer over to the MLB dashboard, again, over on GuyBostonSports.com, Josh Lowe, this last 30 games, average versus right-handed pitchers. So this is his overall numbers versus right-handed. This is taking all of the season data into consideration. He's batting .211, right? But the last 30 games, kind of narrowing it down a little bit, 167. So he's even worse than the numbers on Outlier indicate. And his OPS, 550. So really good matchup here for us. I think Josh Lowe really struggling. And then looking back here to the left side of the dashboard screen, you do see that Detroit this year, 13th in ERA, 6th in WHIP, and 8th strikeout walk ratio in terms of the bullpen numbers. So that's the one we're going to look at with these numbers, that when Jack Flaherty exits the game, what's coming out for Detroit. Not a great bullpen, but a solid bullpen. So I think overall, it is a pretty solid matchup here. And if we go back up here to Jack Flaherty, the numbers versus right-handed hitters, really solid, versus left-handed hitters, also very solid. I think across the board, it's a pretty good matchup. All right, guys, our fourth leg of our six-leg parlay, moving on to the Braves-Marlins game, 7:10 p.m. first pitch. We've got Matt Olson of the Atlanta Braves over half a hit. We're grabbing this for minus 255 over on DraftKings, so a little juice there in terms of this player prop. But it's totally worth it because the numbers are phenomenal here. He's cashed the over in 10 straight games, 100% hit rate, obviously, averaging 1.4 hits per game over the last 10 games, including back-to-back multi-hit games coming into tonight's matchup with Miami. Even if you want to go ahead and look at the last 20 game data, and 90% hit rate, 18 of his last 20 games, he's cashed the over, averaging 1.15 hits per game over the last 20 games. So really phenomenal run that Matt Olson is on right now. I will be honest, some intrusive thoughts coming out here. It's a little scary when you see a guy this hot because you know eventually it's got to cool off. Is it going to be here today? I really hope not, but there's nothing that indicates that it shouldn't slow down today. I think I said that right. What I'm trying to say is, based off the numbers we have, this hot streak should continue at least through today's game. Now, the overall numbers in 2025, 74% hit rate, 54 out of 73 games. It's crazy that we're already almost halfway through the season. The MLB year is flying by. 74% hit rate on the year, averaging 0.95 hits per game overall this year. So really phenomenal numbers. This is not just a recent run. This is an in general run for Matt Olson. From a head-to-head perspective, 9 of his last 15 matchups with Miami, he's cashed the over. It's a 60% hit rate, averaging 1 hit per game across the last 15 matchups with the Marlins. To be a little more specific, he's cashed it in 4 consecutive games, with 3 of his last 4 games against Miami having multi-hit performances. He's played them 2 times so far this year, 100% hit rate, averaging over, I think it's like 1.5 hits per game across the 2 matchups. Limited sample size this year, but a pretty decent track record versus Miami overall. And the insight provided by Outlier. By the way, guys, shout out to Outlier, the sponsor of today's video. We do offer a special link down below in the description that gives you guys a 7-day free trial to go ahead and check it out for yourself. It really is the best sports betting tool. When you combine that with the MLB dashboard, which we'll talk a little bit more about in a little bit, how you guys can get involved with that, it really is great. Those 2 things paired together will give you guys in a really good spot to go ahead and nail these player props. Baseball is all analytical when it comes to betting player props. You got to have the right tools by your side. Outlier is one of the best that money can buy. So like I said, link down below in the description, 7-day free trial to go ahead and check it out for yourself. But the insight provided by Outlier, Matt Olson has exceeded half a hit in 14 of his last 16 games on the road, averaging 1.3 hits per game across the last 16 road games, 88% hit rate. So really phenomenal numbers across the board. Now, this is where having the MLB dashboard as a pairing with Outlier comes in handy. So look at the overall numbers for Matt Olson this year. He's batting .256, pretty decent numbers across the board. Versus right-handed pitchers, those numbers do drop a little bit from an overall standpoint, but still not too significant of drops. They're pretty much right where they are, with some minor decreases. Now, if we refer back to the MLB dashboard here and you look at the last 30 game data, okay, a little more specific, Matt Olson, last 30 games, average versus right-handed pitchers, 302. So you see the overall numbers versus right-handed pitchers, 250, which is not terrible, but over the last 30 games, which kind of adds up with the hot streak that he's on right now, batting 302 versus right-handed pitchers. Also has a 987 OPS, so really phenomenal numbers versus righties over the last 30 games. Also looking at the bullpen numbers for Miami, not very good. Bottom 10 in all 3 key categories there for bullpen. So even when Jansen Junk comes out, and we'll get to him in just a second, it's still a pretty favorable matchup. Now, looking at Jansen Junk, we do have some numbers here that are pretty decent. However, you look at versus left-handed hitters like Matt Olson, 306 batting average, so really, really high numbers there. And going back over to outlier kind of reiterates that. Overall, he's actually having a decent year, but versus left-handed batters, his batting average allowed and BA, BIP, ERA, FIP, they all increased pretty drastically, which obviously means we have a pretty good matchup on our hands here. So that's our fourth leg of our 5-leg parlay. For our fifth leg of our 5-leg parlay, moving on to the Reds and Cardinals game, 7:15 p.m. first pitch. We're going Elly De La Cruz over half a hit. We're grabbing that for minus 235 or 240, depending on how you're using it over on DraftKings. Elly is obviously a switch hitter here, but pretty good numbers. 6 of his last 10 games, he's cashed the over, averaging 1.2 hits per game over his last 10 games. It should be noted he definitely struggled in that Minnesota series, failing to register a single hit in that 3-game series versus the Twins. That just means he's pretty much due for tonight. Last 20 games, 65% hit rate. He actually was on a really good run going into that Twins series that kind of cooled him off a little bit. But he's averaging 1.05 hits per game over the last 20 games. And if we do go ahead and stretch the data out to the entire season view, a 68% hit rate, 51 out of 75 games. He's cashed the over, averaging 1 hit per game overall this year. The head-to-head data, also very strong. 11 of his last 17 matchups with the St. Louis Cardinals, he's cashed the over. That's a 65% hit rate versus St. Louis across the last 17 matchups, averaging 1 hit per game across those last 17. Now, he has played them already 4 times this year, and he's cashed the over in 3 of 4 games. They had a 4-game series, the end of April, beginning of May. 3 of those 4 games, he did cash the over. So pretty good numbers, 75% hit rate this year versus St. Louis. In the insights provided by Outlier, Elly De La Cruz has exceeded half a hit in 7 straight games on the road, averaging 2 hits per game over the last 7 road games. So he's had 5 multi-hit games over the last 7 road games. Pretty good numbers for Elly De La Cruz recently on the road. Looking down below at the key matchup stats, Elly De La Cruz versus Andre Palant. Now, I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing that correctly. 14 plate appearances since 2018, so a decent sample size here. 250 batting average, not great. 3 hits, which is not terrible. Again, we don't have to worry about extra base hits or anything. He just needs to get a hit, a single. We'll go ahead and cash the over here. Not the worst track record, but at least we have some history of some sort of success versus Palant. Again, 250 batting average is not really anything to write home about. Now, Elly De La Cruz down below, overall having a solid year. Of course, he's one of the young stars of the league. Versus right-handed pitchers, we do see all steady increases in his numbers. Batting average, BA, BIP, hard hit percentage, and WRC+. They all increase very nicely. Now, the one worrying thing here is the matchup versus Palant. Now, the one tough thing here is that Outlier provides the numbers versus left-handed batters, but Elly De La Cruz is a switch hitter. He primarily bats lefty, but he can hit righty, and obviously in a matchup like this, righty would definitely benefit him much more. Palant 262 batting average allowed, 285 BA, BIP. Versus left-handed batters, the numbers do drop, which obviously is not good in our favor. But if we do go ahead and refer to the dashboard here, look at Palant's numbers this year versus right-handed hitters. Everything is significantly higher. WHIP, FIP, batting average allowed almost 300. His strikeout rate's low. His walk rate is very high. Obviously, some really good numbers there. For us, also looking at the bullpen numbers real quick, just in case when he does exit the game, St. Louis, they do rank bottom half of the league in a lot of those key categories when it comes to the bullpen. So like I said, Elly is a switch hitter. So he's primarily listed on Outlier's left-handed batter, but he can hit righty. And obviously in this matchup, batting righty proves a huge advantage for Elly De La Cruz. And if we look at the last 30 game data, and again, let's go back to the Outlier screen real quick. We'll look at the overall numbers this year versus right-handed pitchers for Elly De La Cruz. 295 batting average, obviously very high. Over the last 30 games, it's even higher. He's batting .414 over the last 30 games off of right-handed pitchers with a 1.394 OPS. So, like I said, even if you want to go ahead and take the left-handed batter data, which obviously favors Andre Palant here, Elly De La Cruz has been destroying right-handed pitchers all season, but specifically in the last 30 games. So, I think it's a really, really solid matchup here for Elly De La Cruz and a solid 5th leg of our 6-leg parlay. And wrapping things up, guys, our sixth and final leg of our 6-leg parlay. Moving on to the Astros-Angels game, 9:38 p.m. first pitch. The Hunter Brown of the Houston Astros over 5.5 strikeouts. We're grabbing it for minus 275 over on DraftKings. Again, a little extra juice, but for good reason. Hunter Brown's on a phenomenal run right now with Houston. 8 of his last 10 games, he's cashed the over. It's, of course, an 80% hit rate, averaging 8.3 strikeouts per game over the last 10. Remember, we only need him to get 6 strikeouts to cash the over. He's averaging over 8 per game. And he's coming off a very impressive last start on June 14th where he had 12 strikeouts against Minnesota. Pretty crazy. Now, if we do look at the overall data, he's cashed the over in 10 of 14 games. Still very impressive. A 71% hit rate, averaging 7.5 strikeouts per game overall this year. Now, from a head-to-head perspective, we don't have any data versus the Angels to go off of for this year. But the last time they played on June 8th of last year, he had 7 strikeouts. Again, not a lot to go off of because it's over a year ago. but 7 strikeouts, 50% hit rate, averaging 5 strikeouts per game across the last 2 matchups with the Angels. But we scroll down below here, the Angels batting versus right-handed pitchers, and it's a very favorable matchup. You see here, overall this year, 30th dead last in Major League Baseball in terms of strikeout rate versus right-handed pitchers, 26.2%, with a very low walk-to-strikeout ratio, I should say. And then versus in the last 30 games, they're a little bit better, but still really bad, 28th and 25th respectively in terms of strikeout percentage and walk-to-strikeout ratio. We don't even need to go to the dashboard for this one, guys. The numbers speak for themselves. He's in the 97th percentile in terms of strikeout percentage, 32.3, 93rd, getting a little ahead of myself there, 93rd percentile in terms of strikeouts per 9 innings, averaging 11 strikeouts per 9 innings. Pretty much a straight row of like 90s percentiles for all these numbers. So pretty good matchup here and a really solid spot for the 6th and final leg of today's parlay. All right, guys, we made it. 6-leg parlay in the books here. Let's go do a quick little recap here for you guys. So we have Elly De La Cruz of the Reds over half a hit. We have Mike Burrows of the Pirates over 3.5 strikeouts. We have Josh Lowe, just remind you, Josh Lowe of the Rays under 1.5 total bases. Max Fried of the Yankees under 5.5 hits allowed. Hunter Brown of the Astros over 5.5 strikeouts. And Matt Olson over half a hit of the Atlanta Braves. And again, the link for this will be down below also in the description, as well as the pinned comment to go ahead and tail this. It's the easiest way. Outlier, by the way, shout out one more time to Outlier. They provide this screen. It makes it very easy to go ahead and tail. Now, obviously, all 6 legs are available on DraftKings. So if you parlay all 6 together, you get a parlay of plus 840. Massive parlay over on DraftKings. However, if you don't have DraftKings, they do have some other options on FanDuel. 4 out of 6 legs are available for plus 235. Not nearly as worth it. ESPN Bet, 5 out of 6 are available for plus 426. Caesars, 3 out of 6. BetMGM, 3 out of 6. Hard Rock, 5 out of 6, so plus 431. Prize Picks, 4 out of 6. So on and so forth. Sleeper, 5 out of 6. But obviously, the one sports book where all 6 are available and it's the most valuable is, of course, DraftKings. Again, 6-leg parlay plus 840 odds. And real quick before we sign off, a quick little shout to Ev, who created the MLB dashboard over on GuyBostonSports.com. It is a member-only content. Now, we don't pay for picks. We don't charge for picks. We never will do that. We never have done it. We don't charge for picks. The only thing we charge for is access to these dashboards, which Ev puts a lot of hard work into updating daily and putting all that data. He does it for every single game. So going back over to the dashboard here, like I said, that's the dashboard. And he does it for every single game. And I'm only showing you guys a little bit. There's so much data and so much stuff from a player prop perspective, from a game line perspective. There's a lot of stuff to go ahead and utilize. And like I said, he also puts in the keys in terms of definitions in the end. So really phenomenal stuff here. And we also have a couple of our promo links all in there. So that's all available to you with the membership tier. And again, it's not even that bad. MLB dashboard, $4.99 per month, $5 a month to get access to all that data. And again, realistically, same thing with Outlier. Yes, you pay for these things, but if you're hitting your sports bets thanks to these tools, it basically pays for itself. So just for MLB access, it's $4.99 per month. It's $6.99 per month to become an all-sports dashboard member. That includes NBA dashboards, MLB dashboards, and of course, when NFL comes around, we'll have NFL dashboards out as well. So make sure you guys take advantage of that. It's over on GuyBostonSports.com. Become a member today and get access to all the exclusive content and membership perks that Guy Boston Sports provides. Guys, that is it for me today. Thank you very much, as always, for watching. One more time, please make sure to go ahead, hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment down below. And again, comment freaky down below, because if this parlay hits, we're giving one lucky commenter a free $50 Amazon gift card. Until tomorrow, guys, I hope you're all winners. Enjoy your Freaky Friday. Have some freaky fun. Let's go ahead, make some money.